Hi everyone, my name is Amitesh, and in this video we're going to focus on that limit there. We're going to completely understand it and eventually use it to motivate the sandwich theorem, which is a very fundamental theorem in limits, and everything's going to be super basic and accessible. This is as I've taught multiple times at Princeton University, so whenever I've given lectures on limits, I've always talked about this limit. It comes up a lot in homework, tests, exams, at all levels of math once you've studied limits. So it's very important to understand, and we're really going to understand it visually, algebraically, in many different ways. Okay, so let's just dive right into it. The first thing about this limit that kind of confuses people is the sine 1 over x. Okay, so the x thing isn't too bad, but the sine 1 over x, what does that really mean, you know? So the first thing you want to do when you see a limit is always think about plugging in the value, right? Plug in x equals 0, because x is tending to 0, of x sine 1 over x, and see what happens. Okay, so the x goes to 0, right? As x goes to 0, x goes to 0. There's nothing there. But this is a very important observation, as we'll see. The sine 1 over x, on the other hand, what's going on there? So forget about the sine first of all. The 1 over x is what can trip a lot of people up. The 1 over x is going to go to plus or minus infinity. So I've done another video where I've talked about this in detail. If you approach from the right, it's going to go to plus infinity, and if you approach from the left, it's going to go to minus infinity. So check that video out if you want a refresher on that. But it's just going to become either really large positive or really large negative, in the sense of negative of a really large number. So 1 over x is going to kind of go crazy, but what's sine of that going to be? Okay, so let's first think about that and then get back to the limit. So a quick review of sine. So when we think about the graph of sine, so I'm going to kind of draw it here. The graph of sine is going to be this sinusoidal wave. So basically you start off at 0, so I'm going to do this in red maybe. So red, you kind of go up, you go down, you go up, you go down, etc. Right? You go up, you go down, etc. And you can label, you know that there's a period of 2 pi, so the graph repeats every 2 pi units. So here you have minus 2 pi, etc. This is pi. Okay, this is all just a quick review. It doesn't too much matter, except that it just kind of goes up and down, just the shape of the graph, okay? Now what happens to sine of 1 over x? Okay, now think about it this way. As x goes to 0, 1 over x goes to infinity. Okay, so let's just imagine x is positive first of all. Okay, so let's keep x positive. And think about what happens to sine 1 over x. So 1 over x gets really large, right? If x becomes 1 over 10, 1 over 100, 1 over 1000, then 1 over x becomes 10, 100, 1000. 2 pi is roughly 6.28, right? Pi is 3.14. So as x gets closer and closer to 0, the waves of sine will very rapidly go through their cycles, right? In very short amount of time. If you go from 1 over 100 to 1 over 1000, right? So if you imagine kind of trying to draw the graph, so this is y equals sine x, and if you sort of try to draw the graph of sine 1 over x, if you sort of go from 1 over 10 to 1 over 100 to 1 over 1000, 1 over x is going to go from 100 to 1000. So it's going to go 900 distance, and that's going to be 900 by 2 pi revolutions of sine. So it's going to sine's going to just go up and down because it's a very short amount of time. So you sort of see as x approaches 0, what's going to happen is the graph is going to go up and down, but it's going to get really, really, really like fast. It's going to like frequency, it's going to do something like that, okay? But it always is going to be between 1 and minus 1. But it's just going to really oscillate wildly, okay? That's the graph of y equals sine 1 over x. And it's the same principle when x is negative, okay? So when x is negative, well, you can even use the fact that sine of x is minus sine of minus x, okay? So sine is what is called an odd function. It's the same behavior. If 1 over x, if x is negative, 1 over x is going to be negative a big number. Okay, and so it's also going to frequently go through the cycles of sine. So we're going to kind of get some graph that looks like that, and it's kind of going to oscillate wildly. Okay, there's not going to be a value at 0. Okay, so when you plug into this limit, when x is 0, it's undefined. The function is not defined at 0, and that's what's so cool about this limit. Just because something isn't defined at 0 doesn't mean you can't understand what it looks like near 0, and that's the whole idea of limits: understanding behavior near a point. Okay, when it's not necessarily defined at that point. Okay, so this is y equals sine 1 over x, and my graph, it should go between 1 and minus 1. I haven't drawn it very perfectly, but you get the idea. Okay, that's y equals sine 1 over x. Now, what happens? So this is kind of crucial. This is a visual perspective, okay? So we've just broken things up really simply. You know, no one looks at that and immediately knows the answer. This is a subtle thing. I'm sure the first person in history who thought about this, maybe they came up with the sandwich theorem this way, and they had to make a big advance in human history. Just because it's taught in college in one lecture doesn't mean it isn't a very deep thing and took a long time to discover. But x sine 1 over x, well, we know that sine 1 over x, so here's the behavior. I'm just going to put it this way. I'm going to say that sine 1 over x, the 1 over x goes to plus minus infinity, that blows up, but the sine 1 over x oscillates, okay? So I'm going to say it oscillates, meaning it just wildly goes, but between minus 1 and 1. Now, there is a famous rule in limits, the product rule for limits, that says the product of the limits is the limit of the product if both exist. In this case, the sine 1 over x limit does not exist, right? Because of the oscillation, sine 1 over x is not approaching anything. So we'd say here, so I'm going to write this here, limit x goes to 0, maybe I'll write it here, limit x goes to 0 of sine 1 over x does not exist, okay? It's DNE. DNE means does not exist, okay? Stands for does not exist. However, here's the intuition, okay? Forget about the sandwich theorem. If you've seen it already, just think about this intuitively as a human would, you know? Humans are not computers to just plug things into theorems. But here's how I intuitively look at it. Sine 1 over x, it is something, right? It's randomly going between values. But x is going to 0. What is 0 times something? What is 0 times any number? It's always 0, right? 0 times anything is always 0. Now, it's very important here that sine 1 over x is not getting really large, okay? So this is very crucial because, for example, if I had a limit, I'm going to show you a random limit. Limit x goes to 0 of x times 7 over x, okay? What is this limit going to be? Well, we could sort of think about it a similar way. We could sort of say, okay, x goes to 0. 7 over x is going to go to plus or minus infinity depending on the direction, but we can't say this product goes to 0, right? It's not true. Just because 0 times anything is 0, well, this is going to 0, but this 7 over x is going to infinity, and the speed at which it's going to infinity is cancelling off the x somehow. And so the end result, you know, if you simplify, cancel off the x's, you can do that because x is non-zero, right? In the limit, x is not the value at the point 0, it's what it is near 0. So you can cancel off the x's and you can get just limit x goes to 0 of 7, which is just equal to 7, right? So this is an example where you can't sort of say 0 times anything is 0 because the other thing is going really large. It's unbounded. It's going off to infinity. But in the sine 1 over x case, it's oscillating between minus 1 and 1. So eventually, x times sine 1 over x has to become really small no matter what. And that is the intuition for why this limit actually turns out to be 0. Okay, and this is a very fundamental limit, and it's important to understand this intuitively. Forget about the sandwich theorem if you've seen it. Just intuitively feel for why this is true, and now we're going to show you the sandwich theorem. Okay, that's how math is discovered. We see an example, then we find the theorem. Okay, so let's now talk about the sandwich theorem, which comes from this example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase this, and we're going to actually graph x times sine 1 over x and see the sandwich theorem in action. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to graph it. So let's do that. So let's graph y equals x sine 1 over x. Now, sine 1 over x is going to oscillate wildly between minus 1 and 1, and its graph looks like this. When we multiply with x, as x goes to 0, what's going to happen is the graph is going to get dampened. It's like wave dampening, you know? So the amplitude of the wave, you've seen physics, right? Sine 1 over x is between 1 and minus 1. But as x times sine 1 over x is going to be between minus x and x. And as x goes to 0, that's going to get really small. So actually, let me just summarize that in a picture because a picture is 1,000 words. Well, basically, I'm just going to kind of draw this like this. It's going to oscillate wildly, but it's going to get funneled in, sort of like this. And similarly, it's going to get funneled in. So I can sort of do like that. It's going to get funneled in. Okay, so I didn't do that very perfectly, but you can sort of see it's going to get funneling like that, and that's why you see the limit is 0. Even though the function isn't defined at the point, the limit is 0, and what we can do here is we can actually draw the line. If you draw the line y equals x and the line y equals minus x, So this is the line y equals x, this is the line y equals minus x. The graph is always going to be between the lines. Even though I haven't drawn it perfectly like that, I sort of have to kind of like kill that off here, but just kind of erase that. But I can sort of do this, and now I can make it go perfectly between the lines. So perfectly between the lines like this, and that's going to be the graph of y equals x times sine 1 over x. Okay, so it's funneling in between x and minus x, and this is the sandwich theorem. This is why the limit is 0, because it's getting squeezed. You know, sometimes this is also called the squeeze theorem. It's getting squeezed between these two lines. And so the mathematical way we prove this, so the mathematical way we appeal to the sandwich theorem is we basically say the following. We say that, so here's what we do. So I'm just going to sum up by telling you what the mathematical way is and also stating the sandwich theorem, so you just know what's going on here, okay? So the way we say this is the following. Because minus 1 is always less than or equal to sine 1 over x is less than or equal to 1, right? It doesn't matter what's in the argument of sine. It could be 1 over x, it could be some really crazy expression. It could be e to the x plus x squared minus 7x plus 1 over x squared, whatever you like. Sine of anything is always between minus 1 and 1, right? That's key. So minus 1 is less than or equal to sine 1 over x less than or equal to 1. Multiply the inequality by x, okay? And what we get is minus x is less than or equal to x sine 1 over x is less than or equal to x. Now, you know, if x is negative, the inequality flips, but it's still true, okay? So you could sort of say, so maybe one way of saying this, if x is negative, we can sort of write it as minus absolute value x is less than or equal to x sine 1 over x is less than or equal to absolute value x. I think if I've got that right. So we can, or in fact, we don't even need the absolute value. Sorry about that. I'm just going to keep it like this. You can sort of see from the graph, it's minus x less than or equal to x sine 1 over x is less than or equal to x. And now what you can do is, because of that, you can say that therefore, since the limit as x goes to 0 of minus x is equal to the limit as x goes to 0 of x is equal to 0, we know that, we deduce that, so I'm going to put this here, we deduce that, therefore, the limit as x goes to 0 of x sine 1 over x is going to equal to 0. Okay, so that's going to be the proof. Quick intermission. I just wanted to point out that it should in fact be an absolute value here. It doesn't change the argument. Everything else is right, but I just wanted to correct that. It's the same idea. It should be an absolute value, just to make sure that it really is sandwiched between those two functions, because the inequality does flip. Thank you so much, and keep watching the video. And the formal justification for this is the sandwich theorem. Okay, so the sandwich theorem says that if a function is squeezed between two functions and both of those have a particular limit, then the function that's squeezed in also has the same limit. So I'm going to state that theorem formally now. And really the way I apply the sandwich theorem, whenever I've taught this at Princeton or seen people like use it or seen problems with it, it's always basically 0 times something is 0, as long as the something doesn't become unbounded. That's kind of the main application of the sandwich theorem, okay? To kind of understand limits of the form 0 times does not exist. It still can be 0 as long as it does not exist, doesn't get too big or too small. Okay, so what we can do is we can now say that, so I'm going to write it here, this is the sandwich theorem, also known as the squeeze theorem. Okay, so sandwich theorem, I guess it's a UK US thing. Okay, I don't know which one is which. Drop me a comment down below if you know where it's called what. Sandwich theorem versus squeeze theorem. So it states the following. So this is the theorem. If g of x is less than or equal to f of x is less than or equal to h of x, and limit x goes to a, so a can be any number, a can be 0 or whatever, we're just stating it very generally, okay? And this is what I mean by, mathematicians are not computers. We don't think about it like this first. We think about the example and then write this down. But suppose limit of this is equal to L is equal to limit x goes to a of h of x. Okay, so g of x and h of x have the same limit, which we call L. So here in the example we just studied, L was 0. It was minus x and x was sandwiching x sine 1 over x. Then there are two statements. Limit x goes to a of f of x exists, and it's also equal to L. Okay, and equals L. Okay, and limit x goes to a of f of x is equal to L. Okay, that's the theorem. Now, you don't have to actually state it twice. You can say if the limit is L, then of course it exists. That's included. But I just want to emphasize that sometimes limits don't exist. But this theorem is telling us the limit exists and telling us the value. So it's pretty powerful. So thank you so much for watching. This is a quick summary of the x sine 1 over x limit and a view towards the sandwich theorem. There are many other examples like this. I will do some more examples as I've taught, with different kinds of problems as they appeared at Princeton on tests and exams, and also other examples I can come up with, and just to try to practice with the theorem and the concept. But just remember, 0 times anything is 0 as long as that thing is bounded. It doesn't go to infinity or minus infinity. Even if that limit doesn't exist, multiply with 0, it'll become 0. That's the moral. That's pretty much the moral of the sandwich or the squeeze theorem. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe. My goal is to make math free and accessible worldwide, all levels of math, everything, not just to students in high school, in colleges, or having access to resources, but anyone, as long as they have an internet access, which is the restriction I'm with at the moment. But as long as they have that, I want them to be able to love, benefit, enjoy math, and really learn and have the opportunities, because math is used everywhere. And by liking and subscribing, you really help me achieve my goal to make free accessible math education. And ultimately, I want to expand it out to people even without internet access, in remote areas, people who are underprivileged. And I have to start somewhere. So starting off in YouTube, building up from there. So by watching this far, you've already supported me a lot. Liking and subscribing, everything helps. Takes a second, means a lot to me, helps support me. I wish you all the best. I'm super excited to see you in the next video. Drop me a comment down below. Check out my other videos on my channel. I'm doing math at all levels. So eventually, whatever level you're at, there'll be stuff for you. But it takes time. So I'm going to do it over time. 5 videos a week is my goal. So check out my channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Please take care.